Hi, Elena.
Hi everyone, glad that you are here joining us in our fireside chat. We are Women Awakening Women, and we are in the business of supporting women leaders to build up their mental fitness. And what is mental fitness? What we mean by mental fitness is our capability of responding to life challenges with a positive rather than negative mindset. We are the co-founders of Women Awakening Women. I am Elena Herrero.
And I am Martha Jafetz. And today we're going to talk about a topic that is very dear to our hearts and is something that most of our clients bring to the table when we're talking about strengthening our mental muscles. And it's boundaries, women and boundaries.
So the first question is, what is the relationship, Martha, between boundaries and mental fitness?
None. Of course there is. Of course there is. Elena, you were talking about mental fitness, and you know, this is about finding this way of responding from a positive rather than negative perspective, and boundaries play a critical role in doing that. And boundaries, um, sometimes we believe, women in general, we believe that setting a boundary, it's something negative, something that set us apart, that disconnects us from the world. And interestingly enough, it's very different for men.
Yeah, one of the things that we believe and practice in Women Awakening Women is that boundaries are organizers of relationships. And an example that I love and we use a lot is our skin is a boundary that separates Elena from non Elena, yet is the way in which I get in contact with people and I connect. It is a boundary and allows connection and organized interaction.
And many, many times, setting boundaries is what we need so that we can create the space to work on our mental fitness. As much as, when you go to the gym, for those of us that go to the gym, you need to create that boundary between now I'm working, or now I'm preparing something at home, and now I'm going to the gym. Yeah, whether it is at home or elsewhere, you set up a boundary that says this is a time I'm devoting to myself. Yeah. And oftentimes, we are asked, why are boundaries relevant? Why do we need to set them up?
Mm. One of the things that we find, and is a complementary perspective on boundaries, is that many times we need to give ourselves time to give a closure to something, maybe a relationship, maybe a meeting, maybe a house, a location, a city, to
Work.
be work, a job, to be available to for what comes next. And that is also a boundary that organizes the experience and allow us to closure, to be able and ready to open. Um, One of the questions that we receive a lot, Martha, is how can I sustain boundaries over time? So, any reflection on that?
A lot, actually. One of the things I wanted to say before going into sustaining boundaries or flexing boundaries, depending on the place from where you're looking at them, is, my background today, it's an office space. And the reason I'm serious today with my background is because sometimes it's easy to set boundaries at home with our kids, with our husbands or spouses or partners or friends. And it might not be as easy to set boundaries at work when somebody asks us to stay late or do something else or be in a call later today. So for some reason, there is the expectation that at work, or might be the expectation that at work, our boundaries are more difficult to set up, which, speaking of mental fitness, is, maybe the story we're telling ourselves, not necessarily good or bad, but it's the truth that we're telling ourselves. So when we talk about sustaining boundaries, for us, it's not about saying, well, this is it. I'm going home at 5:30 this afternoon, or 6 or 7, whatever the time that works for you, or I'm going to stop doing these at certain time. And as you move along, as you experience the boundary, you might need to make some changes. And sometimes we might not feel comfortable with making changes to the boundaries that we set up. So, for example, Elena, I would like to finish this conversation in half an hour. Yeah, because today I do have something happening in 30 minutes. But tomorrow we might be having a conversation and I don't have a hard stop. So I want to continue the conversation. I enjoy the time, we invest in working together, talking to each other. So the flexibility, the sustaining the boundaries has to do with not only with the topic that I'm trying to set a boundary, or the person that I'm trying to set a boundary for, but also with the fact, that I might be in a different place.
Yeah, and you are touching a point that many times, we have conversation with our clients. That is, I decided in my head that there is a boundary somewhere. Oops, I forgot to communicate. So now the other person doesn't have the crystal ball, is crossing a boundary that for me is a non-negotiable, and I feel offended or threatened. So setting, owning, and communicating boundaries are different stages of the same spectrum, I would say, that are part of how we interact and how we communicate what happened, that we need a boundary, that we are setting a boundary. If we change the boundary, we communicate again, and also being available to listen to the other person or the circumstance boundaries. So there is a give and take many times at work and at home in terms of setting boundaries. There is a negotiation many times.
Yeah. There is flexibility. You mentioned it before. One of the things that people in general struggle the most is with communication of boundaries. So we might have decided in our head that this is my boundary, and I communicated it to you, right? So sometimes we assume that the other person will remember, or continue understanding that my boundary keeps on being the same regardless of the circumstances. The communication part is one of the most difficult things that we fail to do, for the most part. So sometimes over communicating a boundary is what avoids, you're talking about getting upset or angry, which has to do with our mental fitness. Every time that we do get upset, angry, or any negative emotion, then we are looking at the world from a negative rather than positive perspective. So as much as we do exercise our bodies, we have also the choice to exercise our mind. And the exercises of our mind might start with a very simple boundary. I need 2 minutes. I'm going to go out. Yeah. But we might not communicate. So I'm not telling you what I need or what's my boundary, and I expect you to guess.
Yeah, you're bringing a great point, because if I want to take a serious look to this matter of boundaries, what would be a good first step to review or start setting boundaries, or review the boundaries I already have, or communicate the boundaries that I set?
Well, Elena, probably you know what I'm going to say, but we at Women Awakening Women, we like to start small. we like to start with the smallest possible step. So first of all, define what kind of boundary you need to set. It could be personal, it could be with your partner, with your spouse, with your kids, with somebody at work, with a friend. What kind of boundary? Number two, what kind of boundary do I want to set? And number three, how do I want to communicate it? So start small. Smallest possible way. When you're having an argument with your significant other, say, I need time. I need time. I don't want to go into this conversation right now. And by the way, this is what I'm going to be doing going forward, because I don't want to get into a discussion when I'm upset, because I'm not in my best mind to do that. It could be at work, it could be at home. Start small. Try it out. See how it feels.
Yeah, you are bringing a topic that is relevant. That is that boundaries are multidimensional, are related to physical, psychological, time, money,
emotional.
How much money do I want to invest in this thing? How much money do you want to give my kids during the week or during vacation? How much money do I want to invest in this trip? How many days I want my in-laws at home
to stay? Yeah.
How much time I am, ready to commute for a new job, whatever it is. So it's time, money, location. I don't want to go anywhere or whatever. People, physical. So it's really touches all our lives. I would say, all the dimensions of our life.
Yeah. So maybe to close this topic for today, we do have lots of resources in our website. So please, there are many resources in our website that you can get for free. They could be triggers for you to try out. They could be, different courses. One thing is, establishing boundaries seems easy. It might not. So take it easy, and ask. One of the things you could do is ask for someone's help. So, for example, Elena, if I want to establish a boundary, I'm going to tell you, this is a boundary that I want to establish, and I want you to tell me when I'm not sticking to my boundary. And then now I have an accountability partner that is going to help me. And it doesn't have to be anything big, because remember, this is training. We're training our minds, our brains to do something that we might not be doing really great, or to the extent that we want to. So get help.
Yes.
You don't have to do it alone. And of course, you can always get a coach that's going to help you do that and practice in a more accelerated way, I would say.
Absolutely.
Any final comments, Elena, before we say goodbyes for this month?
It's a difficult topic to approach. It's very liberating as well. I mean, when we can start to have conversations about boundaries, our boundaries and other people's boundaries, establishes a new way, a new dynamic in the relationship that is good. So we may be a little rocky at the beginning, but really in the medium and long term, it pays definitely.
And one thing I would say is, share, if possible for you, also share your struggles with another woman. Because sometimes we feel like we are the ones struggling, the only ones struggling with setting up a boundary. And suddenly we're not alone, and we can support and help each other into achieving, small steps to set up boundaries that protect our time, our money, our resources, ourselves, and give us the opportunity to create, the space that we need to, be at our best every day.
Thank you. And without further ado, thank you very much for joining, and see you soon next month.
Yeah, and enjoy setting new boundaries and see how they work for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.